Hello friends, welcome back to the homestead. Today we're going to talk about trapping for predator control on your homestead. We've lost, I think, 2 entire flocks of chicken over the years. 2 predators, specifically raccoons. Once that happened, I stepped up my game. I invested in some better traps. I learned a lot about bait, and I'm going to share those tips with you guys today. We'll talk about raccoons, possums, moles, mice, a little bit of weasels and minks, although I don't have a ton of that pressure here on our homestead. And at the end, I'll share some overall, general purpose tips when it comes to trapping with you guys. So I do not often use leg traps. I have some. I use them specifically for groundhogs, and I have not had much luck with them. These things take some skill that I apparently don't have yet. So we're really not going to talk too much about these. Most of the traps I use are all live traps. And what this video is not going to cover is if you catch an animal in your live trap, what you should do with it. That's totally up to you. Some people prefer to dispatch the animals. Some people prefer to relocate them. In some places, relocating is illegal. So we're just not going to cover that. I'll tell you what I know about trapping them. What you do with them after that is up to you. So we'll start with one of the smallest nuisance pests on the homestead, and that is mice. If you live out in the country, you have an old farmhouse like we do, mice are going to get in. They're going to find a way to get into your house some way or another, so you need to have a good way to trap them. We've been through all different types of traps. The little snap kind that snap and kill them, those work well. Peanut butter was a really good choice for those. You have to make sure your sensitivity is right when you set the trap. Otherwise, you're just going to come and lick all the peanut butter off of it. The option that we've switched to recently is these little traps, these little live traps. They have a little door in the back that you can put some bait in. This little door slides in the back. There's the front. That's where the animal goes in. Once they go to the back where the bait is and they step on this, it closes and they're trapped inside. Once they're trapped, you can do with them what you see fit. As far as bait goes, you can put peanut butter in these, but it's a pain in the butt to try to clean off. When you catch a mouse in here, after an hour or two, they're going to pee inside of here and defecate and make a big mess. So you want to clean these afterwards. And if you have peanut butter in there, it's going to be even more of a chore. What we found best is Doritos. Not sponsored by any means. We're not sponsored by Doritos or Frito-Lay or anybody, but Doritos specifically, the more flavorful, the better. The spicy nacho ones or the sweet chili ones, if you can find those ones, they have a much stronger smell. They seem to attract the mice a lot better. You put some of it in this little back food part, the mouse goes in, it closes, it traps them, and then you can do with them what you want. Now moles are not going to by any means kill your chickens, but they are a nuisance. A lot of people try to get rid of them. A lot of people spend a lot of money trying to get rid of them. They can mess up your lawn. If they get in your garden, they're going to cause a big havoc in your garden. So we try to trap them and get rid of them on our homestead. Last year we had a big infestation with them. I must have had there was tunnels basically all over our yard. Every time I would mow, I would get frustrated. Lawnmower going over the big mounds, shooting dirt everywhere. And I was like, all right. I invested in some of those traps with the spikes that go down into the ground. Didn't have any luck with those. There's poison pellets that you can put in the ground, bubble gum, all kinds of different things that people use to try to get rid of them. I switched this year to this style of trap. This is a scissor trap. These little jaws right here will open up when the mole goes through. The jaws close, they pinch the mole, it kills it pretty much instantly, especially if it gets them in the head. I have caught moles within 15 minutes after setting this trap. And the key is, I think two or three different things here that I have going on. One is when you find the little tunnels, the little hills in the ground, you'll see some that are in weird patterns, like zigzag and circular. those aren't the tunnels that you want to set your trap on. You want to find the long runs from like zigzag pattern, long tunnel to another zigzag pattern. That long tunnel is where you want to set your trap. And always set it when you're wearing gloves. You don't want to contaminate this with all kinds of human scent. And that goes for a lot of trapping for what that's worth. The trap basically goes into the ground. You step on it with your foot, it pushes down that plate, it opens the jaws and sets the trigger. When the mole goes through there, the jaws close and it kills him. I think this brand it's made by a company called Wire something. Wire Trap, Wire something. I will leave a link to, actually I'll leave links to all of the traps that I use on Amazon if I can find them there. There's a lots of copycats of this one, and I spent half a day probably reading all the different reviews of them. Of all the different ones, this is by far one of the most reliable and effective. So raccoons are by far the biggest predator that we face here in Southeast Michigan on our homestead. They have killed many of our chickens over the years. After the first couple times, I went to Tractor Supply and I bought myself a set of live traps. I think they sold like a 3-pack of a large, a medium, and a small, similar to the traps that are sitting here behind me. I started trapping. I started using all different types of bait. Cat food, especially canned cat food, can work really well for both raccoons and possums. And I think maybe I caught one, but I still knew that there was a lot of raccoons out here because I would see them at night. I often come out at night when I take the dogs out to go to the bathroom with I got a couple really bright flashlights, and I would shine around looking for little glowing eyes, and I would see them everywhere. I would come out, set my trap, come back the next day, my bait was gone, the trap was not tripped. So I knew that my bait was working, but my trap was not. So I invested in a better trap. These ones that I switched to recently are by a company called Havahart. This is not sponsored by them by any means. They're just what I found that works, so I'm sharing it with you. Why I think these ones work better is sensitivity. So they both have a door that comes down and closes when an animal goes inside and steps on this little plate back here. And that's what triggers the trap to go. But what makes these ones cool is there's a little wheel right here. You see this little dial? This is what you use to adjust the sensitivity of your trap. And when you set the trap, you do so by pulling this lever like this. And the amount of tension needed to actually trigger the trap is determined based on this little wheel. So if you screw it all the way down tight like this, it's super sensitive. The tiniest little trip of that plate in the bottom will make it close. If you're dealing with something that doesn't seem to work because they're tripping the plate before they get inside the trap, you can lower the sensitivity by raising this, which then makes it a little bit less sensitive. So they do make smaller versions as well, like this one has the same features, the little wheel at the top that you can adjust for sensitivity. These would be great for minks, weasels. Bait for weasels and minks, I really have no clue. I would suspect some type of a meat. Cans of cat food would probably work well for minks and weasels. But raccoons and possums, I started with the same technique for raccoons and possums, using cans of cat food. You can go to the dollar store and buy them for like 50 cents. They work great. The problem that I found is I kept catching cats. There's a lot of stray cats around our neighborhood. I think we're one of those farms that when people drive by, they think, oh, that would make a great place for our cat that we don't want anymore. Let's drop it off. So we have like multitude of cats, and I kept catching them because cat food, cats. So what I switched to, which seems to work equally well for both possums and raccoons is marshmallows. The cats seem to leave them alone. They don't really like them. And the raccoons and possums seem to really like them. I started using like the big marshmallows that you use, but you got to put like 3, 4, 5 of them. You know, you got to put some way back here, and then I usually leave a trail of marshmallows so that they come find them, walk in. When they finally get back here, they trip that plate, the trap closes, and you catch them. I switched to the tiny little ones, like the ones that you can put in like, like hot chocolate, those little marshmallows. And you can just sprinkle a handful and throw another handful in the cage, and quite effective. And since doing that, I haven't caught any more cats. So cats apparently don't like marshmallows. Raccoons and possums do. Now possums, some people will argue that possums are good on your homestead. They eat ticks. They will eat lots of ticks, and you should just leave them alone. I'll leave that up to you guys to determine if you want possums on your homestead and you trap one. All you gotta do is take it where you want, move this lever, and let them go. If you want to do something else with them, you're welcome to. So some general overall big picture tips for you when it comes to trapping. Whether you're doing live traps like this, mole traps, mice, whatever it is, try to wear gloves. Try to not contaminate the trap, the surrounding area with your human scent. Pretty much any type of glove will work. Just not bare hands if you can. Tip number 2, know what you're up against. And I approach this from 2 different angles. One is, like I mentioned earlier, every night I take the dogs out to go to the bathroom. We got a little fenced in area out behind our house. I take them out, I go out with them, because I take my flashlight, sometimes multiple flashlights, very bright ones, and I scan my property. I scan around my house, my side yard, over by my barn, way back here in the pasture. I scan everything, looking for eyes. Little tiny eyes, specifically close to the ground. Every now and then I find a cat. Those are easy to distinguish. Usually I find raccoons, possums. They're easy to see. So the main asset that we try to protect here on our homestead is our egg-laying chickens. Now our egg-laying chickens, our chicken coop, is literally a brick building. It's an old smokehouse that's original to our homestead. One side of the brick is gone, so we replaced it with wood. We have an automatic chicken door that opens when the sun comes up and it closes when the sun goes down. That keeps our chickens relatively safe. However, going back to that knowing who your enemy is, knowing who you're after, I step things up an extra notch by putting a camera, not in my chicken coop, but outside the chicken coop facing the door. Critters know where that door is when they smell chickens and they try to look for a way to get in. That camera pointing right towards that door catches so many critters. Now I use a wireless webcam with a little solar panel on it that keeps it charged. I never have to worry about battery. If it detects something, my phone will go off. It will record what it saw. That has been super helpful. Not only after the fact, trying to diagnose, hey, why are 3 of my chickens gone? You can go back to the footage and see what went in there. We had a case when we went out of town for like a week, and our dogs weren't here, we weren't here. The raccoons got really brave and they started coming in the broad daylight. So our automatic chicken door served no purpose at that point, but I was able to go back in the footage and realize we had a mama raccoon and like 5 baby raccoons, and that mama was trying to feed them babies in broad daylight while we weren't home. So having a camera, I'll try to leave the link to the one that I use. It has like a little base station that plugs into your house, and then it connects to Wi-Fi out to the remote camera. It's reliable. It works for me. If you're interested, I'll try to link that as well if I can find a good link for it. lights can be a good option. There's a lot of like motion controlled lights that will turn on. I think I have 4 or 5 of them inside my chicken run area, so that if something does get in there, all the lights come on. I've noticed that some critters, especially raccoons, don't care. You can shine a light on them. You can have 10 lights that all turn on. Raccoons just don't care. They'll be like, yeah, whatever. I know you're in bed. Possums, on the other hand, they're a little more skittish. I've gotten cats on my camera, all kinds of different things. I was just checking my notes to make sure I covered everything, and I think I did. One of my enemies, one of my nemesis, groundhogs. I have tried all kinds of things. I've tried peaches, cabbage, cantaloupe. I have one groundhog that lives under Rachel's garden shed. Used to live under our barn. He's moved. I cannot catch him. I've tried all types of bait in my live trap. I cannot catch him. I have since resorted to leg traps, and I have not had much luck with them. They require a level of skill that I have not learned. So if I learn that skill someday, I will share that with you guys. But yeah, I think that's all the tips and everything that I've learned over the last 4 or 5 years since I've been trapping predators. And I hope you found it helpful. If there's something that you have learned that I haven't learned yet, share it down in the comments so that we can all kind of learn from each other. And good luck. We'll see you guys on the next video.